You can compare branding your company the same way you brand yourself. You wake up in the morning and presentation is key because first impressions is a massive thing.
Yeah.
So what you wear represents who you are. The same way your company, what the company wears. You have to look at your company as a person. It has an identity the same way that you have an identity. So how you speak, the language that you speak with, not just when you actually speak verbally, but when you are reading it as a consumer, it has to be the same. It has to be consistent. So all of those things have to come into play. It may seem quite difficult and there's a lot that you need to do, but that's why you need to hire a branding expert to help you. So once you know you've got your sound down, you've got your typography, like you say, your colours, and colours are important. Most people think they're not important, but we respond to colours. There is different emotions that we feel and we associate with. And then the icon itself. The beauty of an icon is the fact that it can be used anywhere if it's created well. A lot of people try to go for complicated things. And also the beauty of an icon is having a story behind it.
Yes, absolutely.
Having that ability to tell that story, it takes you back. It's always good to have an ethos for your company. So if you know what the ethos is for your company, everything else can like play around with that. The way you sound, the way you speak, your sound, your colours, your icon, everything.
Welcome back to the Lucrative Lady Talk Show with me, your host, Pam Obasa. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have been watching every single episode, I want to say massive thank you so much for joining us over and over again. We really love and appreciate you. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so that you can be the first to see all of the episodes this season. So today I have an incredible guest with me, and we are talking all about branding, which is one of the key things that you have to do in your business. You have to brand your business, you have to brand your services, you have to brand your messaging, and so many other aspects of your business. But a lot of entrepreneurs think that branding is one thing when truly branding is something totally different. So with me today is the amazing Jay from IAJ Designs, who's going to be talking all about branding and digital advertising. So welcome, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to get some information out there for people to help them with their branding. So definitely.
Fantastic. Really good. I want to start from, with you really, to really understand who you are, because this is the first time our audience are meeting you.
Yeah.
So let us know, who are you and how did you get into branding and designs, etc.?
I'd say there's like two elements to myself. I'm an illustrator and I'm a problem solver. I love to solve problems. And it was a stage in my life where I was thinking about how do I actually make that lucrative? How do I turn that into something where I can actually make money? And it was a case of combining the two, so problem solving and illustrating, which essentially became design. Right. As a child, I didn't really know about graphic design.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of the different things around me, seeing different logos or even just sort of advertising or posters and stuff like that. I didn't realize that the medium was called graphic design. It was only later on I discovered that. I always thought that I was going to be an artist and that's how I was going to sort of like make money. But I learned about graphic design in school and I moved into sort of doing that at college and then uni as well.
So were you one of those kids that just drew on your parents' walls? Like, what were you like as a child?
Funnily enough, I did draw, not on the walls.
Okay.
I drew on papers, but my dad used to put them on the wall for me. So, it was really good to be able to walk past and look at the progression of my work, to just see how much I was developing as an illustrator.
Brilliant. So where does a designer find their inspiration? I mean, when you have different clients, they have different needs. Where do you begin to even figure out what am I going to illustrate for this client?
I mean, there's inspiration is all around. Sometimes it's from the world. Sometimes it's from other designers. A lot of people like to go back and look at different movements, different mediums. And sometimes it's a case of being 100% organic and creating from scratch. And sometimes it is about innovation, but sometimes it's about taking something and then developing it further. So sometimes a designer can have an idea and they can create something, but it's not the best idea. And then another designer comes along and then perfects it.
Brilliant. You just take inspiration from everywhere, pretty much, and make it better.
Yeah.
So, speaking about branding, where did branding begin for you? When did you start to incorporate branding to illustration, to knowing that it's not just a matter of what I draw or what I present, but branding is a collection of other mediums? When did that journey begin for you?
I believe that journey began for me when I started to recognize logos and
Right.
icons. Nike being one of them.
Yeah.
As a kid, I would just draw the Nike swoosh all the time.
Yeah.
I say Nike, it should be Nike, but I got
Oh,
used
well,
to
potato,
potato, yes. But so I was drawing the swish all the time and just trying to get it right. And it was from there that I started to recognize that different companies had different logos and brands, and they're memorable, simple and memorable.
Yes.
And I think it was that icon that kind of built that integrity for the brand, but then also the recognition as a consumer. You would see it and you would know it straight away.
Yeah.
So it was at an early stage I started to see that with the symbolism, but then later on I started to see that there was more branding elements that I would recognize. Color was one of them.
Right.
A brand like T-Mobile back in the day when we used to have.
I don't even remember
mobiles.
that. You're telling your age.
Well, how do I do a do-over? T-Mobile had the white and the pink, which was a very strong indication that it was T-Mobile, the brand. Orange was another. As much as it was called orange, it also had the orange square.
Yeah.
So anytime you would see a combination of certain colours, be it the black, white and the orange, you'd know it was from Orange, the phone company, and the same with T-Mobile. But then it also moved on to sounds.
Yeah.
So as much as you had the symbols and you had the colours, you had sounds as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to advertise through radio.
That's
and then sometimes they would advertise through TV as well. And at the end of the commercial, you would just hear a certain tune and you would know. Coca-Cola would always be like, always Coca-Cola. They would kind of like sing it and chime it. And around Christmas time, they would use those kind of sounds as well. So it's those things that consumers will recognise and then know straight away that that's the brand that I trust and, you know, I want to buy the products from.
That's really interesting because from what you've just said, it's almost as if these big brands are using the senses, essentially. They're using what you can see, you know, what you can hear, you know, probably what you can feel to some extent, where they have really thought about these are the areas that I really want to be remembered by my consumers, and these are the things that I want to represent my brand. When it comes to a small business, however, small businesses haven't gone that far. I can't think of many small businesses, the type that, you know, you might have as a client or I might have as a client, you know, who have thought that far. Instead, we're focusing on other aspects of branding, you know, such as the logos, the colors, the fonts and all of those things. And in fact, when it comes to marketing online, digital marketing, I think it's really changed the face of branding altogether. So can we talk just a little bit about how branding has really moved forward when it comes to digital marketing?
Yeah. With digital marketing, there's more that you can do. So in the real world, you had, like I said, billboards. You could do direct mail, so putting it through the post.
Yes.
And then you would also have radio and TV.
Yes.
But then when we move online, we have display ads.
Yes.
We have social media, which has probably blown up in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But then there's this new area called paid posts.
Yeah.
So with paid posts, what you're doing is essentially building upon the trust that you have with the consumer that what they're seeing is something native, when in fact it actually is an advertisement.
Yeah.
So rather than you scrolling past, because we've gotten used to ignoring advertising because sometimes it's a little bit too in your face.
Yeah.
With branded content and paid posts, you can now place it in an area where a consumer's just not going to be like, oh, it's an advertisement. They're actually going to take time to actually look at it. The interesting thing about advertising in itself is that they say the attention span for the audience is usually 3 seconds.
That's right.
So you have to do a lot to capture their attention in that time. So with whatever you create, be it animated, the time frame for those advertisements usually are between 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're a well-known brand, you can get away with 10 seconds because I've already built the trust with you. I use your products or your service. So I'm going to give you that time to actually look at what's going on. But if you're not, you want to capture their attention within 5 seconds. And online, people's attention spans are quite short anyway. And that's why products like Vine or even Instagram video have cut down their video time because they know people consume things a lot quicker.
And speaking about online, it is such a noisy place.
Yeah.
I mean, the barrier to entry is so low. Anybody can start a business today and be online tomorrow promoting. So getting your message across, that that by itself is a skill.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about brands earlier, and we know that, the brands we mentioned, T-Mobile, Nike, and such, they have big, massive budgets where they can tell a story in a unique way. But when it comes to a small business where we don't have that budget, how do we allow our brand or our branding to speak for us in such a short space of time?
The first thing is you've got to know your audience.
Yeah.
And when I say know your audience, it's not the demographic in terms of the breakdown of their age, gender. It's about knowing what they want. Mm-hmm. So you deliver a service, yes, but what is it about my service that I can make better for them? Mm-hmm. And that's that you can engage with your consumers by doing that. So social media, those platforms help you to actually do that. So if I did have a product, I can put it on there and I can look at the comments, I can see the feedback, and I know how to change things that will be not only better for my consumers, but better for my business as well.
Yeah.
So and it takes a bit of experimenting to do that. So what some companies will do is they'll do mass marketing. So they'll pump a lot of money into the promotion, and it's kind of just like throwing it out there and see what comes back.
Yeah.
A bit like imagining if you were fishing and you had so many different fishing rods.
Yeah, you throw your net,
and you just chuck and just wait and see what happens.
That's right.
But like you say, with a small business, you don't have that budget to do that.
Yeah.
But if you spend more time knowing who your target audience is, and also looking at the metrics that come back, you can then know that the next time you go out with a campaign, you can have better results. But then also at the same time, you just have to constantly think about what is the budget you actually have. You can't do it without a budget. There is online such thing as organic and paid. So there is the organic. Sometimes you may have friends who will push things out for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just someone will stumble onto your stuff.
Yeah.
Depending on how you've actually positioned yourself and put yourself together. But you always have to have a budget when it comes to your advertising.
You see, the interesting thing about knowing your ideal clients, and you talk about it from a budget perspective, but the issue is a lot of people, even if they do have a budget, it's thrown down the drain because they don't even understand who their ideal clients are. So they have marketing coming out, but it's like just being fired at anybody, and they're thinking about branding, and they think branding is my color, branding is my size, branding is if I speak as loud as I can, then I will be heard. So what would you say to that small business owner who says, I have a budget, Jay, but nothing is working. What am I doing wrong there?
I think, first of all, we need to look at the product or the service.
Okay.
If the product and the service are good, then you're going to get something from it. Sometimes it's not just about the marketing and the advertising. Sometimes it is what you actually do.
Yeah.
So you may have to go back and look at certain things. Mr. Kipling, for example, when he was doing his baking, if they didn't taste nice, people aren't going to want to buy them.
Yeah, they won't come back.
Word of mouth is one of the most powerful things. So if your service that you deliver is amazing, or your product is, then you're going to get something back from that. And the little you get back, it's about working out how do we do better. And it is an investment. Not when you say like you invest something in it and you get nothing back, you actually do get something back. You get an answer.
Yeah.
Because you know that whatever I'm doing right now isn't working.
Yes,
so now I move on to the next step. So it's just a case of like looking at the KPIs. You have to have your key performance indicators to know what it is that is working and what it is that isn't working. And you need to have thresholds. You need to, it might be a lot of analysis, but you can break it down to simple things to get, simple information back to you, basically.
Yeah. Brilliant. So going back to branding, a lot of people think that branding is one thing, right? They think it's your colors, it's the size of your font, it's the type of font that you use. In your own, being somebody who this is your field, what is branding, and what should small business owners be thinking of branding as? What is it?
You can compare branding your company the same way you brand yourself. You wake up in the morning and presentation is key, because first impressions is a massive thing.
Yeah.
So what you wear represents who you are. The same way what the company wears. You have to look at your company as a person. It has an identity the same way that you have an identity. So how you speak, the language that you speak with, not just when you actually speak verbally, but when you are reading it as a consumer, it has to be the same. It has to be consistent. So all of those things have to come into play. It may seem quite difficult and there's a lot that you need to do, but that's why you need to hire a branding expert to help you. So once you know you've got your sound down, you've got your typography, like you say, your colors, and colors are important. Most people think they're not important, but we respond to colors. There is different emotions that we feel and we associate with. And in the movie industry, a lot of directors will play with colors because they know that the audience are going to respond to those different colors, purples, reds, if I need to be alert or if I need something that's warm. So knowing what colors kind of sit well with your product will help you. And then the icon itself, the beauty of an icon is the fact that it can be used anywhere if it's created well. A lot of people try to go for complicated things. And also the beauty of the icon is having a story behind it.
Yes, absolutely.
I mentioned Nike before. Not a lot of people know that the swish is actually a Greek goddess sort of swooping down. So that's what the swish actually is about. And there was an older logo which I actually liked from Sony Ericsson, which is technology taking over the world. And all it is two simple colours, a globe, well, a sphere shape, and then you've got silver taking over green. Having that ability to tell that story, it takes you back. It's always good to have an ethos for your company. So if you know what the ethos is for your company, everything else can like play around with that. The way you sound, the way you speak, your sound, your colours, your icon, everything.
And just to add to, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Just to add to that, being able to talk about what you do and what things mean and why they mean that. Because, you know, Nike can have a swish that is a Greek goddess swishing down, but if they're not able to actually communicate it, which I think as small business owners, we all need to have the ability to do, nobody would know. So you can choose any symbol, but your messaging is absolutely important, and tying it, which is what you're trying to say, tying a story behind that and making sure that that comes across in your marketing is very, very important. Brilliant. So let's say we have people who are wanting to get into branding. You know, perhaps they, you know, we have two types of people who watch this show. There are people who are going to be looking to hire somebody to do that for them. And there are going to be people who are freelancers and who are, you know, perhaps they design logos for people, for others. And they, you know, they're out there, they're on Upwork, they're on Fiverr, and they're on those sorts of websites looking for clients. So I want to talk about that group of people first, so freelancers. How do they go about, so you've got your skill, how do you go about monetizing that and getting clients?
Well, first of all, you need to know what your skill is. Are you a versatile designer? Are you somebody that is just based on ideation, brainstorming and conceptual thinking? Are you somebody who likes to create motion graphics? Once you know what that medium is, it's a case of becoming a specialist in that medium so that people can recognize that you're good at it. And the best way you can showcase that is by having a portfolio. And again, first impressions count. So how you display that portfolio will matter to the person who's actually looking at it.
Right.
So you can do that on your website or you can do that on your social media account. But it's those things there, again, that once they're there, you then have to sort of broadcast to people. So word of mouth will help. If you do have a client, making sure that the relationship you have with that client is really, really good. Don't chase the money. Just build the relationships, do a bit of account management, and also just check up on them. Don't once you've finished doing a project, that's not the project finished and you've been paid and that's it. Follow up. You know, talk about what you're thinking about doing next year, which would help them. Give them ideas, because it's very easy for a business to continue once things are flowing like a current. So they feel like, well, people are actually using my service and they're using my product. I can step back and not think about designing that anymore. But as a designer, you can always come back in and be thinking about the revamp. How can we change the curve? Are we now dipping in performance? Are we consistent, or do we want to keep on going in the upper projection? So it's things like that you need to be thinking about, definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that, especially the part about aftercare, right? You finish working with somebody, check in on them 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, see how they're doing, and that could prompt them to hire you again, which is very important. So what about those who are watching and who are thinking, Jay, I've hired people before, so-called branding experts who I've paid money to come into my business, and they haven't produced, or rather I haven't seen the return on my investment.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they need to look out for when it comes to hiring properly this time?
The best thing that you can do when you are looking for a designer is make sure that you have a consultation period with them. Because within that consultation, you're able to see what ideas are good and what things will actually work. They're pitching their services to you. So you need to know that they understand your business.
Right.
It's not a case of them coming in and just being like, we're going to do this and this and this, and kind of just like blindsiding you with like all the bells and whistles. What they need to understand is how your business works, why there's a dip in performance, and what they can do to change that. And you can only do that with a consultation. They need to identify what it is to make you perform better as a business.
Yeah.
What you need to do is have a brief. And what a lot of businesses fail to do is brief designers in a proper fashion. You brief by, you want to deliver a message to your consumers.
Yeah.
So think of that message. Once you've got that clear message, how can the designer help me visually communicate that message? So once you have that, and that relationship seems like there is some chemistry between the two of you, then I think you'll definitely be on the right track.
Definitely. And speaking about messaging, it just prompted me as well. One of the things that has come up recently online, in the online space, there are lots of big players online, and something has happened where when it comes to branding, one thing that a lot of people forget is that it is also how you represent your brand in terms of your images, right? For example, if you have an event and you have a specific race throughout your entire marketing, what are you saying to other people who are not of that race?
Yeah.
Right? So it's your imaging, it's your voice, it's the images that you use, it's the words that you use, your messaging in total, when it comes to really branding your business. So I would definitely add to that these are the things that when it comes to thinking about hiring somebody, you make sure you get it across that you want this brand to really represent what you are about.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask you, what are your 5 rules of success when it comes to branding, to really nailing your brand? Considering we've talked about branding, across the senses, really, essentially, what are your 5 rules of success when it comes to that?
My 5 rules. The first one is know your audience.
Okay.
You need to know your target audience. Because once you know who you're trying to deliver a message to, it's easier to work backwards and then deliver that message.
Yeah.
The other one would be to focus. As much as you're a business and you have loads of different sort of facets to the business, within that problem that you're trying to solve, you need to focus on it.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be patience.
Okay.
Success doesn't happen overnight. So you can build a roadmap of how you're going to go from one stage to the other, and you can evaluate it afterwards. But it can't be something that is going to be like in a week, we expect to have this coming back to us. So you have to have a realistic kind of goal and time frame to do that. The other one, I actually written them down. The other one is your message.
Yes.
You need to know if it's a clear enough message.
Yeah.
It needs to be trial and tested.
Yeah.
A little bit of research, trialing it on focus groups as well, seeing if it actually resonates with people. So the message needs to be really, really clear. And don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
I think that whenever you are trying to succeed, what you need to do is sort of lean on experience. So failure is one of the best things, because then you can move your way closer.
You can build up.
Success.
Absolutely. I really love all of that. I think my favorite is definitely focus, because I think when it comes to building a business, especially if you are just starting out or within the first 1 or 2 years of running your business, it's really difficult to focus. It's incredibly difficult because all sorts of people are doing all sorts of things around you. And so the imposter syndrome comes in, the shiny object syndrome, where it's like, now I want to do this, or now I want to change my brand. Actually, now I want to change my entire business name. Now I want to change my entire business model and do something totally different. So focusing, coupled with just being patient enough to try it and get that ROI, if you've invested in it, if you've really done the work, nail your messaging, focus and wait and get that ROI before you make a decision as to whether your idea will fly or not. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jay. So if my audience wanted to find you, where would they find you?
So they can find me on my website, which is www.iajdesign.com.
Brilliant.
And also my Instagram handle is the same, just IAJ Design.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lucrative Ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. That was incredible. Really helps me to think about, branding. And I really hope that it has done the same for you, specifically about your messaging and how important and at the core that is of your entire brand. So brilliant. Make sure you reach out to Jay. Make sure you stalk him, find him on Instagram, on his website, and everything else. And if you have any more questions, make sure you post it in the comments so that we can come back and respond. Of course, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, make sure you go ahead and do that. That would be a great way, a great way to help us to keep going. And we want to say thank you so much to everybody who has done that so far. I love you all, and make sure you take care and look after yourselves, and make sure you come back, see all of our other guests. And most important thing about this show is that you take action. That is it. It's not just about listening and watching. It really is about doing the work, taking action so that you can see the results. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.